Welcome back. The next 7 Caillou challenge is called Char code calculation. Given a string, turn each character into its ASCII character code and join them together to create a number. Let's call this number total 1. For example, given the string, they should really have double quotes around this, right? We know that about C#. Note that the letter A, its ASCII code equivalent, is 65, and we've talked about ASCII, right? We've used those values in solutions in the past, but if you don't recall, just Google that and you'll find out that every character on your keyboard has an underlying numerical representation. I think ASCII stands for American Standard Computing, I'm not sure now, input interface, or I'm making it up now, but something to that effect, where, you know, there's an underlying number that represents each character. And so you're going to grab that for each character and then sort of concatenate them all together. Notice the 65 is A, right? So this 6-digit number is ABC again. The 66 was B, and the 67 is C. So you're just kind of translating it into this numerical format. And they said to call that total 1. Then replace any incidence of the number 7 with the number 1 and call this number total 2. So then we got total 1 from above, total 2 now. There happened to be a 7 in here, so they just switched it over to a 1. And then finally, once you have total 1 and total 2, return the difference between the sum of the digits in total 1 and total 2. And that'll be your answer. We know here they have an int32 type as the return type, which you could also just use int. You can think of it just like int. So go ahead and pause the video and try this one out. I think you can do this, and then come back when you're ready. We'll get into it. So for starters, the question is then, how do we convert the characters of the input string S into their ASCII equivalent? And you can do that with a pretty simple, what I call a C-style cast, where you just basically put the type you want to cast to in parentheses. So let's do something like that. Let's start by sort of transforming the input, right? So our input string is called S, and what I'll do is that maybe you can think of a link method that we use when we sort of want to transform elements in a collection. A string is a collection of characters, right? They use one of those link methods, and we use select for that, right? Where we sort of project the elements into a new form. So I like to use ch as my variable name, right? We're going to make a lambda. This is our parameter list. It's only one parameter, so we don't need parentheses around it. And I'm going to transform mine from the character, and we're going to use that C-style cast. I'm just going to say, hey, take the character and convert it to an integer, and that will result in you getting the ASCII equivalent of each character. That's what it means to turn it into an integer value, to cast it that way. So you can imagine with this whole statement, right? We know that select returns an enumerable collection. You can just think of it like a generic collection. And it's going to be these numerical values at that point. That's what we're going to have. And so I'm going to create a string of these. I'm going to keep it in string format because I'm looking ahead a little bit, and it's going to say, hey, replace every 7 with a 1. And that's really easy for me to do with strings. A little more involved with integers, at least the way I'm thinking about it now. So I'll do that approach. And so if you have a collection, this enumerable collection of characters, and you want to make a string out of it, we can use the method we have in the past called string join. And in that case, the first parameter is what you want, what character you want to join, or what string. It doesn't have to be a single character. What text you want to appear between each element. So you imagine I have 65, 66, 67. Here clearly, right, we don't want any space between them, so I'm using an empty string here. But if you're dealing with a comma separated variable file, known as a CSV file, if you've heard of that, maybe you want commas separating your data. But here it's just that. So I made that collection, right, of numbers, and now I'm using join to form it into a string again. So I'll call that, in the challenge I called it total1, right? So I've got a string total1 that now equals this, but in string form. So you could think of it like double quotes around it. Okay. Next step, we're going to make total2, right? Better remember our semicolon, right? That's sort of like the period in the programming world, at least in some languages. Next part, I'm going to make int total2. We're going to make that value. And so what I'll do, you know what, let's start as a string. Let's do this in steps. String total2, right? First things first, just replace the original total1, just like they say. And we know that string has a replace method. And you can check the docs if you don't believe me. And for that, I can specify the character that I want to replace, which they told us is 7. And then I say the character I want to replace it with, which is 1, like they said. Note I'm using single quotes here. Those denote characters. So at this point, I'm getting a string total2, which is the same as total1, and if any 7s are present, it'll convert them over, just like you see down here. Good. Next step, I basically got to sum the values in each of these, right? And so to do that, I'm going to create a sum. I'm going to go over each character in the string, grab its numerical value, and add it up. And do you remember a link method for adding all the elements in a collection? Hopefully so. In that case, we can say int, I'll end up combining these, total2, and we'll say total2 sum, right? And we got to tell it how to make the sum, our lambda, kind of like we did before. We'll get that numerical value from it, right? I'll say grab that string, add up all the elements, and to do that you take each character as you encounter them, grab its integer value, and keep adding that, and that'll load that up in total2. And you can imagine we need the same thing for total1. So here, I'll just call this sum2, sum1. And it's the same kind of idea, right? We can say total1 sum. For each character, you're going to add the integer value of it. That's what they told us below, right, in this part of the instructions. Add all of these up and subtract the 2. So once you get to this point, you can probably pretty clearly see it'll be sum1 minus sum2. That should be right. Let's see, string replace. We'll have to bring in, I would think, link, system link rather. Good. That looks good. I'm going to run a test to make sure, and we can kind of condense this. I was trying to do these step by step so you can see it a little bit better. What did I do? Total. The name total does not exist. That's fair. Yeah, total does not exist. I had total1 and total2. Okay, good. Won't claim victory until the attempt works. Good. And so yeah, like you can see here at the beginning, I started kind of chaining things together, and then I wanted to show you how you can break these out step by step. I think that's more appropriate for a beginner course. But when you're done, you know, it's common to just sort of code what you think and then refactor it into something else if you want to. And so instead of having all these temporary variables, I could sort of condense the rest of this, right? We could say, you see how this bit right here can be substituted for total 2, right? That was what the variable is called. So we can do something like this, and I'll just call that total 2 now, since that variable name will be freed up. Get rid of one line there. And then you could do the same kind of thing with sum1 and sum2. Instead, I could rather say this thing replace sum1, total 2. Could replace that. If you want to try and be really concise here, we can sub that in. I think we'll get the same result. And same result. And similarly, right? Every place it says total 1, you know, if you wanted, you could sub this in. But when you got multiple ones going on there, it's kind of, you can see that line would run right off the screen. So you don't have to condense it like this, but I'm just saying if you want, and hopefully it was easier for you to visualize as I did it step by step, as opposed to just, you know, you watch some of these tutorial videos and the guys will just rattle off, you know, something quick like this. And if you're new, you might like, whoa, dude, you know, that was kind of a big jump. So I try to do things in steps that is more accessible to people. So that was the idea there. I'm fine with this. I'll leave mine. I'll submit it this way. Yeah, we're green, we're gold. So yeah, you know the drill if you've been with me this long. Get your points, check out other solutions, see what you can learn from other people too. And then, yeah, go share those solutions in the comments. I'm always available for questioning. And then otherwise, we'll see you in another video. Thanks for watching.